Okay, welcome back. Now I'm going to teach you how to use the transformation functions, specifically for move. I'm going to teach you how to use move from to and move tick. And they're kind of similar but have different applications. And I'm going to show you how to use each one. So, start by grabbing from your iTween object, drag it out, and search for move. You're going to find move by, move from to, move along spline, move tick. Choose move from to. Now to use move from to, you have to execute it somehow. You can execute it from event begin play, so it immediately begins moving, or you can execute it by some kind of other event, such as a click event, or in this case, I'm going to use a keyboard event. Random key, pick V. So when the V key is pressed, it will execute this move from to event. So the first thing we have here is tween name. And tween name allows you to give a specific name to this tweening operation. In this case, we're going to leave it as none because it is a completely optional parameter. However, if you want to have for your own reference a name for this tween, then you can set it here. I'm going to leave it as none. But say if we were to set it as move. Then later on, if I wanted to stop this tween, one of the options I would have is to type in the word move into my stop tweening operations, and it would stop this specific tween. But I'm just going to delete it and leave it as none for now. The next parameter is actor to move, and this is the object that we're actually going to move. So I'm going to go back to my scene here. I'm going to grab the chair on the right. I call it chair right. Going to right click, add a reference to chair right, which is available as an option inside of your level blueprint. I'm going to plug that into actor to move. So this is the actor that will receive the tweening information. Now we have location from and location to, and the way the operation happens is it will snap the object to location from and then move it toward location to. So location to, I'm going to get from the chair on the left. And just to make this a little more interesting, I'm going to move it up and back. So now when we move this chair, it's going to have to move through all three axes, X, Y, and Z. And just so I don't have to rebuild lighting, I'm going to make our light source movable. So now, if I grab my chair and I get a reference to it, and I drag out and get actor location, if I can spell location, there we go, get actor location. I'm going to plug its location directly into location 2. So it's going to start at location 000 and then move toward the location where the chair is. So let's play that. And if we press the V key, nothing happens. You see spawned in the upper left and now deleted in the upper left. That means that the tweening operation object has been spawned and then was deleted after it completed. But the chair didn't move, and the reason for that is because you have to set your tweening object to movable. If it's static, it just won't move. That's the way that Unreal works. But if you set it to movable, then it can move wherever you want to move. So we'll try that again. Move back so we can get a better view. And there we go. It snapped to 000, and then it moved to the place where the other chair is. I'm pressing the V key again and again and again to snap it to 000 and then send it toward where it needs to go. And every time that you set it, it will override the last one, but if the last one hasn't completed, then it will probably jitter some. So I don't recommend using move from to if you're going to be continuously setting the tweening operation to happen. In that case, you would use move tick, and I'll go over that a little bit later. Now we have motion constraints. Right now it's set to free, x, y, and z. If I set it to just x, you'll see that it starts from 0, 0, 0 and then moves backward, but only on the x-axis. So actually its y and z is not starting at 0, 0, 0, or 0 for each of those. It's starting at 0 for x and then moving toward where the chair is in the world x. Then it will stop. Now you might be asking, well, what if I don't want my chair to snap? How do I just make it move from its current position? Well, you can do that just by dragging out and then getting the active location for the object that you are tweening. So our object that we're moving is chair right. Then we're getting its location. We're plugging that into location from. And now it will just start from wherever it currently is. Press the V key, and it didn't snap anywhere. It just starts from where it was. You change the motion constraint to Y and Z. Now you can see that it should move up and to the left and not move back. And that's exactly what happened. It did not move back to where the chair was, but it moved toward where the chair is in Y and Z only. Now one more thing, when I was pressing the V key earlier, when I had this set as 0, 0, 0, I was able to continuously press the V key and it would snap back to 0, 0, 0 and then move toward where it needs to go. If I'm just plugging in get active location, if I press the V key again, it's not going to snap back. It is going to start from wherever the active location is when you set off this event. Just to make that more apparent, setting that off, press the V key, it's spawning and then deleting, but it is not moving anymore. The reason for that, again, is because it is getting its current location when I set off this event. If I wanted to start from that active location and then continuously be able to press the V key and send it back to its original location, then I would have to set a new variable as a vector and then set it to whatever, then pass that through as location from. Now it moves up there from where it was. Press the V key again, it starts back from where it originally was. Turn off motion constraints, leave it as X, Y, and Z. And I want to talk about isLocal. Now isLocal will take the object's parent's transform and then adjust the parameters that you pass into it to work within its parent's local space. Now, if you don't have the object as a child of something else, it is just going to use the world coordinates. So I'm going to first grab this table, and I'm going to transform it around a little bit, just so that this is more apparent to you how much different it can be. I'm just going to move it out of the way a little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to make the chair right a child of the table. Go back to the blueprint. And I'm going to say isLocal. So now the chair right, which is now a child of the table, is going to transform its location to as the it's going to transform the location to the local coordinate system of the table. So let's see how that works. So normally, if we didn't have that, the chair on the right would move toward where the chair on the left is. If I press the V key now, it moves toward where the chair would be the chair on the left, where it would be if the table itself were the world. You see how that happens now. And if I move the table, it is going to do the same exact thing. Not move to where it was previously in the last time we tried, and not move to where the chair is, but move to where the chair would be if, again, the table were the world coordinates. Move straight past it. Because the table, while it is relatively close to where the world origin is not where the world origin is. And now we have sweep. What sweep does is, just like with set actor location, it will check to see if it can move the object toward that location without it running into anything. And if it can, then it will move it toward that location. If not, then it will stop moving. And I'm not sure if anything will obstruct it. And it does. Great. So the chair that would be moving toward obstructs its way to get through. So then it just stops. And then the tweening operation cancels. Take off sweep. Again, it will move straight through that chair. With a disregard for where it's going and what's in its way. Then we have delay. It's a really simple parameter. This is just a number of seconds that the tweening operation will wait before it starts to go. So it waited a full second after it spawned before it continued on with its journey. Now you might be wondering, what is the point of that when you could just put a delay node before this? And the reason that we have it as a parameter inside event move from to is for loops, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Now here's the tick type. Right now it's set to seconds, and the tick type value is 5. So that means that's going to take 5 seconds from the moment it starts to tween to the moment it ends its tweening operation. We can change that to anything we want. We can make it 3 seconds, so that way it will happen faster. And again, delay is on. I'm going to turn that off. Or we can set it to speed, which is kind of an inverse of seconds. So now the lower the amount, the slower it's going to be. Set it to 1, which is actually still quite fast. You can use a decimal amount like 0.05. Oops. 0.05. It'll move extremely slowly. I'm not going to make you sit through this. We can set it to a higher value and make it go fast. I'm going to set it back to seconds because I can gauge exactly how long it's going to take. Ease types I'm going to do in a separate video because they're used in every single tweening type except for the tick types. So I'm going to skip them for now, but we'll get to them. Then there's loop type. It will play once by default, but you can make it happen over and over again by choosing rewind. Whatever parameter you pass in, it will snap back to and then do it again. And this happens whether or not you're passing in a variable. I'll just delete that. Or if you're passing in its live location, because it will take the live location at the time the event starts and then save that as the location it will go back to when you loop it. So if we do that again, just to demonstrate, goes up there, goes back, and keeps going back and forth. Well, not back and forth. It will keep going back and then finishing. We also have another one called back and forth. And that is a ping pong type of operation where it will go to where you set it to and then go back to its original position. This is not reversing. Reversing would be taking the inverse of its trajectory and then moving it toward that location the same way. This is a little bit different in that it switches the from and to and then sends it toward the to, which was previously the from. And I'm sure that isn't making any sense to anyone, but it will make more sense as we get into easing types. And there's loop delay. If you have a delay set and you have loop delay on, then it will wait every time it is about to do the loop. So if you send it forward, it will first wait 1 second to actually do it. Then it will go forward. Once it gets to its resting point, it will wait another second and then come back. It'll do the same thing with rewind. Orientation target and orientation. Orientation will allow you to change the rotation of your object using vinterp while it is moving. So right now, no orientation change is what's chosen by default. And that means that your object will never rotate or turn anyway. If we change that to orient to target, it will by default actually orient to path, which is another option we have in there. I'm going to leave it as orient to target and choose an orientation target. So let's grab this floor object, make a reference to it, then plug that right in. Now, when we do the tweening operation, the chair will rotate to face the pivot point of our floor. It rotates slowly. We can increase or decrease the speed at which it orientates itself, or orients itself. I'm not really sure about English. There's not much of a difference there in terms of what you're seeing in the video, but let's orient it instead toward the table. This will become more apparent. So now at a speed of 10, it seems to look directly at the table all the time. If we were to set that orientation speed down to like 1, it takes a little bit of time for it to look at the table. So it's a much slower transition. On tick, on start, and on complete targets will be covered in a separate video because they, again, are used in all of these tweening operations. So I'll do a more general video on that later. Tick when paused will allow this tweening operation to continue when you use the pause function in Unreal. And ignore time dilation will take the game object's local time dilation and then multiply it by the inverse of global time dilation. So if you set global time dilation to half speed, 0.5, it will multiply the actor that you're moving, its local time dilation, by the inverse of that to make sure that it's always running at a global 1.0 time dilation. And that is how move from to works. I'm going to show you how to use move tick as well. I'm just going to set this to back and forth, which it is. Delay is off. Great. Takes about 3 seconds to do that. Now let's do move tick. Move tick. This is very similar to move update, and I may have said move update in this video. If I have, I apologize. That's not what it's called in Unreal. It's just I'm very used to using move update. Move tick will move the actor in pretty much the same way as move from to, but the difference here is that it's much less expensive to use in the tick function than using this in the tick function. And in fact, using this in the tick function will not work as you expect it to. It will continuously make your object jump, and it will spawn a lot of objects, and it will be a disaster. This spawns no objects to move your character, or your actor, I'm sorry. Move tick lives directly on the iTween object, which is already in your scene. So you would actually not fire this from here. I'm not sure why I did that. I apologize. You would fire it from your tick function. I'm going to break this link. Drag event tick into move tick. And the actor that you would move, I'm going to use a different one. When we start, our chair here is going to be moving toward this chair all the time. So I'm going to move the table to the chair with move tick. So click on the table, make sure it's movable. And I'm going to take the chair right out of the table, so that way they are not related. I'm going to turn off orientation, just to make things less confusing. And I'm going to pass in the chair right's actor location to move tick. I'm going to pass in the table as the object that we're going to move. I'm not going to make it is local because, again, that will make things really confusing for right now. Move speed, much like orientation speed, is the interpolation speed at which your object will move toward this location. Again, you can choose a different orientation type. You can orient it to the target or orient it to the path. I know we didn't go over orient to path. And actually, I'm going to do that right now, so that way you can see that as well. I apologize for jumping around a bit. Orient to path. This will just make the chair look in the direction that it's moving. Looks toward the chair, looks back towards its original location. Look toward the chair, look back towards original location. And orientation speed does affect that. So I'll change that back to no orientation change. And I'll leave the table as no orientation change as well, but it works exactly the same. You can give it an orientation target if you'd like to, and then set the orientation speed, and then set sweep if you'd like to. I'm going to leave it off, and I'm going to tick the table to move to the location of the chair as well. So let's run that. Right now it starts exactly where it is. So you can see it's already sort of working. So now every time the screen updates, whenever it draws another frame, the table is going to be moving toward where the chair is. It lags behind a little bit just because of the orientation speed. Not the move speed is a little bit on the slow side. It's at 5 by default. And that usually works for a good kind of camera lag or something to that effect. You can also change it to be faster or slower. Say move speed of 10. Now it's still going to lag just because of the nature of the tick function. You can mitigate that by just setting it higher. See, there's still some lag, but it is much less pronounced than before. And it seems to snap a bit. Or you can bring down the speed and have it lag a little bit more. This is great for having a fairy object, like if you were doing a Legend of Zelda type of thing. You could have a small fairy object lag behind your character at all times. And that is a rundown on how move from and to and move tick work. I know this was a long video. Thanks for sticking around. Next, I'm going to go over the rotate functions. So thanks for watching.